Welcome back to a devotion time, folks, here on the C Files. We're going to be in Proverbs chapter 14 in this devotion. Uh, and we're just going to start with verse 1 and roll our way through. And this is going to talk about women. The verses 1 through 3, let me just read to you a little bit about that. The benefits of the sensible labor of the wisest of women and the prudent speech of the wise are contrasted with the way in which the acts of folly and the words of the fool ultimately result in self-harm with her own hands tears it down. Sinful people sometimes become highly irrational and foolishly destroy the fruit of many years of work. Beginning with verse 1. The wisest of women builds her house, but folly with her own hands tears it down. Whoever walks in uprightness, sorry about that, whoever walks in uprightness fears the Lord, but he who is devious in his ways despises him. By the mouth of a fool comes a rod of his for his back, but the lips of the wise will perverse them. Verse 4. Where there are no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. Now, note if the strength of the ox is the means for plowing the ground to produce abundant crops, then keeping oxen in a stable is a necessary part of the overall labor, even though it involves the unpleasant work of cleaning the stable. An empty stable may be clean, thus not requiring any unpleasant work, but it won't produce any abundance. Verse 5. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness breathes out lies. A scoffer seeks wisdom in vain, but knowledge is easy for a man of understanding. Leave the presence of a fool, for there you do not meet words of knowledge. That's 5 through 7. Now, these verses refer to character manifest character manifested in part through speech, the faithful, or versus false witness. The scoffer, the lack of words of knowledge from a fool. The implication that such words can be found with a man of understanding. The verses appear to be perspective. Walk the path of the faithful witness, as well as descriptive. Look out for those who manifest lying, scoffing, or foolishness. The Lord desires that his people be faithful witnesses. The Ten Commandments and the further instruction of the law. By the way, Ten Commandments are still in effect today. Um, the law was not done away with. Ceremonial law was, but not the moral law. The the law of national Israel of the Old Covenant was done away, civil law, and the ceremonial law done away. That's the ceremony of how they did things in the temple, how they made the temple, how they worked in the temple, what they did in the temple that God commanded of them in the ceremonial law, how they observed days and seasons and times. All those things were ceremonial law. But the moral law, which is found in Exodus 20, Deuteronomy 5, passages like that, where he gives the commandments, the moral commandments, they abide forever. And that's something to remember. Does that mean by keeping them that somehow we gain reconciliation to God or favor of God? No, because we don't keep them perfectly. That opportunity came and went when Adam was in the garden. He had an opportunity to keep them perfectly, but he did not. But you said the Ten Commandments was not there until Moses. But God walked with them in the garden and taught them and instructed them, and they were to follow what God had taught them and instructed them to do. And they failed in doing that. So the commandments, the moral law, according to Galatians, is to teach us that we are sinners. It's not there to justify us. It's there to show us that God is holy and we are not holy, that we are condemned before a holy and righteous God. And so therefore, we need a Savior. And that's the whole purpose of the law. Pick up in verse 8. The wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving. Fools mock at the guilt offering, but the upright enjoy acceptance. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shares its joy. The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Even in laughter, the heart may ache, and the end of joy may be grief. The backslider in heart will be filled with the fruit of his ways, and a good man will be filled with the fruit of his ways. The simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. One who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. A man of quick temper acts foolishly, and a man of evil devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, the wicked at the gates of the righteous. So on 8 through 15, which I just read, this section is framed by verses that contrast the approach of the prudent with that of fools and the simple. It's prudent to recognize the appearances, or that it's prudent to recognize that appearances can be deceptive, a person's exterior versus the state of the heart. The solidity of the house, the tent, in a way that seems right. And that whatever the appearance, the path of one's life has consequences consistent with how it is walked. In 14:8, the approach of fools to their path is deceiving because they believe it to be wisdom, and it appears so to the simple, when actually it is void of what is required for wisdom. They mock legitimate sacrifices to the Lord. Their path is thus folly. And 8 says, the wisdom of the prudent is to discern his way, but the folly of fools is deceiving. Now, verse 9, fools mock at the guilt offering, but the upright enjoy acceptance. The reference of the guilt offering indicates that the acceptance enjoyed by the upright likely means that the Lord accepts his sacrifice because it is given in sincerity. The Hebrew, ratzon, or acceptance, is also used in Proverbs to refer to what is a delight to the Lord, or to one finding favor with him. So there's a couple of examples. Now, 16 through 17. One who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. A man of quick temper acts foolishly, and a man of evil devices is hated. Oops, did I pass over a few things? No, I didn't. Okay. Um, the wise gives thought to his path and turns away from evil. Um, in contrast, the fool is reckless on his path, a quality of heart that is aggravated further by a quick temper and results in his being hated. You ever known someone of a quick temper, quick to exert their own sense of righteousness against you because you did something that incensed their sense of human righteousness? I'm not saying righteousness from God. I'm saying this human idea and concept of righteousness, which is actually not righteousness, it's wickedness. But people do that which is right in their own minds. And they think it's right. They think they're doing good. They think that the things that they um, represent, the things that they support, the things they fight for are good, but in reality, they're wickedness. It's their own righteousness that pushes these things. And the righteousness of man is like filthy rags in the sight of God. It's no good. We have twisted thinking many times. Verses 18 through 24 gives the effects of inheriting folly, or being crowned with knowledge, are borne out in the fruit of each, a further crown for the wise, and a further folly for fools. Folly for fools. Isn't that interesting? Fools are already filled with folly. There's more folly for fools, but a crown for the wise. The verses in between show that the promised state of affairs in verses 19 and 22 is an encouragement to walk in the way of the good and righteous and not to devalue the poor or a neighbor according to their material means. So let's read 18 through 24. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow down before the good, the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is disliked even by his neighbor, but the rich has many friends. Whoever despises his neighbor is a sinner, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor. Do they not go astray who devise evil? Those who devise good meet steadfast love and faithfulness. In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their wealth, but the folly of fools brings folly. So that's 1 through 24. Let me read to you a few extra things on that. In verse 20, where the poor is disliked, it is an observation on how the world works, not an endorsement of such an attitude. And we even today, and even in our society, the poor is disliked because of their poverty. In verse 21, where it says, "Whoever despises his neighbor is a sinner, but blessed is he who is generous to the poor." Proverbs commends being generous to the poor, particularly those among God's people. In 23, in all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. This is a rebuke against people who are always talking and planning, but never accomplishing anything. And 24, the crown of the wise is their wealth, but the folly of fools brings folly. The circularity of the phrase, the folly of fools brings folly, appropriately captures the self perpetrating nature of the foolish path. The wise are free to enjoy their wealth, and it is safe for them to do so, as they will not be led astray by greed. A crown can be anything that gives visible public honor. Let's go to verse 25. A truthful witness saves lives, but one who breathes out lies is deceitful. So a person called to be a witness must be a truthful or faithful person. The person who lies perverts justice, something that the Lord hates. 26 and 27. In the fear of the Lord, one has strong confidence, and his children will have a refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may turn away from the snares of death. Now, the fear of the Lord brings with it the confidence of lasting security and molds a person's character to follow the right path. Note that the teaching of the wise is also called the fountain of life in an otherwise identical proverb, and that's 13:14, indicating that such teaching fosters the fear of the Lord. All right, 28 through 35. In a multitude of people is the glory of a king, but without people, a prince is ruined. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. Whoever oppresses a poor man insults his maker, but he who is gracious to the needy honors him. The wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous finds refuge in his death. Wisdom rests in the heart of a man of understanding, but it makes itself known even in the midst of fools. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. A servant who deals wisely has the king's favor, but his wrath falls on one who acts shamefully. So, what's he talking about in those proverbs? Verses 28 through 35, or 28 and 35, both of which concern a king, form a frame of this paragraph. Verses 29 through 34 contain various proverbs on the life and heart of an individual. A person must rule his heart with wisdom. Understand that all are under a higher sovereign, that'd be God, and even a king would be a higher sovereign, and have confidence that the wicked, however powerful they are, will be cast down by the highest sovereign, right? God Almighty. A nation perishes if its people lack righteousness. Let that be a lesson to the nations. Unfortunately, very few people will watch these videos. And they will fall into the traps that Proverbs is warning them not to fall into. And they will suffer the consequences that Proverbs is telling them they will suffer. Foolishness abounds in our society, unfortunately. A nation perishes if its people lack righteousness. Ultimately, many of the same rules that govern one's person's life, many of the rules that govern one person's life also governs a nation. In verse 29, whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. Well, the person who is slow to anger reflects the Lord's character. In verse 32, the wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous finds refuge in his death. So the wicked being overthrown, that's part of the consequences of refusing to pay attention and listen to the knowledge and wisdom of God. Um, the one who is righteous lives in fear of the Lord and thus finds refuge in his death because the Lord rewards him. In verse 33, wisdom rests in the heart of a man of understanding, but it makes itself known even in the midst of fools. Now, wisdom resides in the heart of the wise, but even in the midst of fools, it makes itself known by manifesting the effects of folly. Um, the picture of wisdom calling out in the street to the simple and the effects of rejecting her reproof. 34, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Well, we know that righteousness exalts a nation. Morally righteous behavior, I'll say it again, morally righteous behavior has far-reaching effects, especially in the administration of justice and the compassionate care of people. Both the moral behavior and the well-being of the people are exalted. All right, so that was Proverbs 14. Let's move on to the Song of Solomon. And we're working our way through this love song that Solomon wrote to one of his wives. And we will pick up in chapter 8 of Song of Solomon. And in chapter 8, the lovers join in marriage. Oh, that you were like a brother to me, who nursed in my mother's breast. If I found you outside, I would kiss you, and none would despise me. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother, she who used to teach me. I would give you spiced wine to drink and juice of my pomegranate. His hand left his his left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that you not stir up or waken love until it pleases. That's a good word there. Here at the end of the period of longing and waiting is the final instance of the refrain urging the daughters of Jerusalem not to stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time. It is now time to move on to the marriage, where the consummation is indicated by her finally awakening him. So this has all been a pursuit so far. It's a courtship. And now we're going to go into the marriage, beginning in verse 5. Who is that coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? Under the apple tree I wakened you. There your mother was in labor with you. There she who bore you was in labor. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is strong as death, jealousy is fierce as the grave. It flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If a man honored, I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. I am going to silence this phone. It irritates me when that thing distracts me in the middle of reading the precious Word of God. All right, no more distractions. Here we go. Um, where was I? I'll pick up at verse 6. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is strong as death, jealousy is fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would be utterly despised. Folks, don't make the mistake of interrupting me when I'm in the middle of reading the word. I will become quite irritated. This time with the Lord is very important, and the distractions of the world become my mortal enemy when I am involved in my time of devotion. Just thought I'd add that in. Here we go. So here's the final advice. Verse 8, we have a little sister, and she has no breast. What shall we do for our sister on the day when she is spoken for? If she is a wall, we will build on her a battlement of silver. But if she is a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. So, what in the world is that talking about? Well, the chorus speaks here, anticipating the woman's speech in verses 10 through 12. The day when she is spoken for is a day when the little sister will marry. A wall carries the idea of resistance and probably refers to a chaste woman. The door, which can be closed or open, is an image for either cooperating with the wall or defying it. So cooperating wall is by property and defying it by promiscuity. In other words, what we would call pedophilia is not allowed. Okay. All right. Let's go to verse 10. I was a wall, and my breasts were like towers. Then I was in his eyes as one who finds peace. Solomon had a vineyard at Baal Haman, and he let out the vineyard to keepers. Each one was to bring for its fruit 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, my very own, is before me. You, O Solomon, may have the 1,000, and the keepers of the fruit 200. Now, this is the second reference in the book of Solomon himself in the book to Solomon himself. Outside of the title, notice that he continues to be a distant figure. As the reading strategy adopted in these notes, he is described as wealthy. Here he has vineyards earning 1,000 pieces of silver each. The woman's vineyard probably refers to her sexuality. It is hers alone, given to the one whom she chooses, and not used for her gain, and thus is in contrast with Solomon's vineyard. Let's finish up. Verse 13. All you who dwell in the gardens, with companions listening for your voice, let me hear it. Make haste, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices. For gazelle and young stag, the mountains of spices refers to the woman. The Song of Solomon closes with the man and woman delighting themselves with their enjoyment of each other. The Song of Solomon, ladies and gentlemen. I will move. We have finished up the poetical books, which means we're going to go back to the beginning of the poetical books and work our way back through once again. That'll be, I believe, Psalms. Thanks for watching, and thank you for spending time here on a devotion time. I pray the Lord would bless you. I pray that God would bless the reading of His Word, and that it would not go forth void of effect. God bless. See you next time here on the C Files.